Chris, what is empathy?
What is empathy? I think a lot of people have defined it a lot of different ways.
Okay.
One of the most common things I've heard, and it's an accurate statement, is that it's the ability to put yourself into somebody else's shoes.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's a good way to look at it. I think to a degree, it stops a little bit short of where empathy ought to go in your marriage, though.
Okay. So you say it's putting your feet in someone else's shoes. How
Mhm.
far, it's not just that act. What are some of the other things you can do for empathy to become real for a spouse?
Well, going to the definition, some researchers at Berkeley, they did some research on empathy in marriage. I really like their definition. They say
Okay.
that it, it's the ability to detect accurately
Mm,
emotional information that's being transmitted from one person to another. And I love the fact that it's saying it's an accurate detection or interpretation, right? And it's an emotional transmittal. It's an emotional communication in a way. And so I think there's the idea that we're trying to really understand what truly the other person is
okay.
thinking and feeling at the time.
So, I'm like stereotypically most ladies, I like a good shoe.
Okay.
And you kept saying, for me, thinking about shoes
Hmm.
and having the right fit for a shoe really makes a big difference, because there's nothing worse than your feet hurting because you didn't try on your shoe or it's too tight. When it comes to empathy and putting on your spouse's shoes, what are some of the things you can notice about their shoes that may be different from yours?
Yeah. Well, there's the idea. First of all, you kind of thinking about what it's like to
Okay.
be in the other person's shoes. And that's more of a cognitive process.
Okay.
That's more of I'm thinking about what it could be to be you right now in whatever circumstance you're in. But here again, that's where sort of that analogy falls short a little
Okay.
bit, and where I like what the Berkeley researcher says about really detecting accurately, because what it takes is not just knowing
Mm-hmm.
what those shoes may be like, but I want to try to really feel those shoes. Um,
Okay.
I want to be able to, if they're too tight, I want to feel the tightness that my spouse is feeling.
Okay.
If there are holes, I want to feel the holes that my spouse is
Okay.
feeling. And so, whatever situation that they're in, I'm actually allowing myself to feel what they feel.
Okay.
And Gina, that's important, even if I don't tend to feel that way in the same circumstance.
That's good. That's good. That's good. You're feeling what they're feeling because it's about them, not about you when it comes to empathy.
Think about this. Whenever I watch, you're going to like this. Whenever I watch Forrest Gump,
Okay. Love Forrest Gump.
I cry every time,
Yes.
especially when Forrest is sitting there at the tree where his wife's
Oh,
buried. If
yeah.
that doesn't get you, you're not human, right? And I cry every time because I'm sitting there empathizing with Forrest Gump. I am. But I'm not just thinking, I wonder what it would be like to be. I'm sitting
Mm,
there feeling his
yeah.
feelings.
Yes.
And even for those of us who are like, we are not the most touchy feely person in the world,
Yes.
the most stoic person ever, we still have the ability to do that.
Okay.
And I think it's the idea that we allow ourselves to take on the feelings that are being transmitted, like
Okay.
those researchers said, from a spouse. And then, I'm sorry, I'm going on with the shoe analogy, Gina. Not only are we feeling those, then we start thinking, what can I do for this
Mm,
person now?
wow.
I mean,
That's good.
can I help patch these holes in these shoes? Do I need to maybe help them find some new laces? And all this is analogy, but It's what Dr. Paul Ekman calls a compassionate
Oh,
empathy.
that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Now, what are some skills or some steps that you can use to really build your understanding of what your spouse's shoes feel like?
I think the most essential skill that you can have is listening. You got to
Okay.
be a good listener, and you don't listen to judge. You don't listen to bring a defense back or retort. The idea simply is to grasp what your spouse is feeling with as much accuracy as possible.
Okay.
Situation, and then in the process of listening, you're also validating.
Okay. That's
And
good.
this is important because here again, you may be listening to your spouse explain something about a situation and you go, gosh, I never would feel that way in this. I would never be this sad or this excited or this angry or whatever. But I need to
Mm,
be sure that I validate their feelings as theirs. And
okay.
in that process, I'm feeling those holes, I'm feeling those laces, right?
Okay. Okay. So what's next?
Sharing. And really, what that is allowing your spouse to share their emotions with you so that you're actually feeling them.
So you're getting clarification. It's not just this, I think this is what they're feeling, but they actually confirm what your thought process is.
Allow yourself to be a little angry like your spouse is feeling right now.
Okay. Okay.
Allow yourself to kind of feel sad because of the sadness that your spouse is feeling.
Okay.
That's really
Okay.
what that is. And that's possible to do even if you wouldn't typically feel sad or angry at those things.
Because it's someone you care about and they are feeling those feelings.
Exactly. Exactly. And then you need to act.
Okay.
This is where that compassion comes in. And really that compassion and empathy it comes on a lot more naturally
Hmm.
if you've done the listening and the validating and the sharing. Because then you're like, oh man, I know what it is to be sad or hurt or
Yeah.
whatever. Do you need this? And keep in mind, and this is especially for the guys out there, the fellow husbands, my guys out there. This isn't acting is not necessarily the same thing as fixing the problem.
Oh, that's good.
We got to be really careful with that.
And I will add, for us, we have to be okay if I have shared with you something that is showing some vulnerability,
Oh man, yeah,
because it's really hard. Because again, if you get into the habit of being the one who's always got it together, when you don't have it together, that's a scary
right.
thing.
Well, Gina, here's the way I like to think of it: is that empathy begets empathy.
Okay.
And so therefore, if my spouse, my wife is being open with me and sharing this, that I could very well come back and go, you really shouldn't feel angry about that. That's not empathetic at all.
No.
But instead, I'm listening and I'm validating and I'm sharing. And then I come back to her later on another time with something that I'm feeling about something, and she's empathizing with me in the same way. Your marriage has nowhere else to go but up. You are strengthening that bond and that intimacy and that connection. It's good stuff.
That sounds really important. That empathy is that ingredient. It's like it binds and bonds a couple together. And it's a skill that you can learn. Yes?
I think that's one of the most important takeaways is that empathy is, first of all, it's an action. It's not just something we're thinking, and all those, steps, everything we're talking about helps with the action. And yeah, it's a learnable skill. It's not something that if you're just, I'm not a touchy-feely person, so that means I'm not really empathetic. No, we can learn empathy, and what's really cool about that is therefore we can learn how to take our marriage to the next level, and the next level, and the next level.
Well, Chris, thank you for sharing with us some great tips and steps how to build empathy in our marriage.
My pleasure.